All right, let's move into the Miami Hurricanes. They got a huge win over Notre Dame at home. They look pretty good right now. They just shot up the rankings, going from number 10 to number 5. Big jump. What are we thinking about the Miami Hurricanes? Are they the best team in the ACC, making the playoffs? You got a big smile on your face.
Yeah. So if you're new here, I am from Miami. I am actually currently sitting about 3 minutes away from the Hard Rock Stadium here. And it is a good feeling, right? Like
That
winning in
number,
week
that minutes number gets closer every time we talk too.
yeah. I just winning in week one is always a great feeling, right? Getting a top 10 win in week one is an even better feeling. And beating Notre Dame is possibly the best feeling as a Miami Hurricanes fan. Um, I just have so much to like talk about here. Carson Beck, where do we even start with him? He was beautiful in the first half. The second half, the play calling was absolutely atrocious. I thought there were so many 3-and-outs, and it was just an unfortunate set of circumstances. Felt like we let Notre Dame come back in that game, which obviously they did on their own merit, and they had CJ Card a couple great drives to like lead them back into that game. But like it was just so conservative in the second half, which is a little bit concerning because you've seen that against like Georgia Tech in the past, losing that game, the Syracuse game. Like it wasn't a matter of being conservative and as much as it was just losing that football game, which was so tragic to like watch. But I think that there's so much good with this Miami Hurricanes like team in general. Do I think that they are national championship contenders? Yes. Do I think that they will win the national championship? Let's hold off. I obviously they're only the number 5 team in the nation. There's a bunch of teams ahead of them that are quite good. Obviously, Ohio State, Penn State, just the laundry list goes on. LSU, but that defense was also so much improved, which is what you want to see as a Miami Hurricanes fan, right? You look at where the struggles were last year, and obviously everyone knows that we had Cam Ward. They had the number 1 offense in the nation. Cam Ward broke a bunch of records. The rushing offense was also there. It was all about the defense. The defense couldn't hold a candle to a baby. Like they were literally like, and that is the first time I've ever used that quote. But like, you understand what I'm trying to say. Like it was, especially in that secondary, there was so much to clean up, and it looks like they did a good job. They were reading like concepts correctly, like when they jumped that route, and there was like a scorpion kick that ended up turning into a Ruben Bain interception. Ruben Bain lived up to the hype. He was very good in week one. And just in general, that defense played like they should have. And that defense probably plays better if the offense gives them less time on the field in the second half. Like I could easily see that defense not having given up as many points as they did if they weren't on the field so often in the second half. But they did what they needed to do. And I think with that defense and Carson Beck at the helm, this can genuinely be a really scary team. And I personally think they're the best team in the ACC. Obviously, Clemson is right there, and FSU is looking good this year. But I think that for my money, Miami's the best team in the ACC right now.
I think just based off of the general expectations going in, because I thought Miami was going to be good too, but just based off of the general expectations going in, they were probably the team I was most impressed with over the weekend. And first, I'll say this about Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a good team. With CJ Carr also had a heck of a debut challenge for him, going on the road, Hard Rock Stadium, inclement weather, maybe not the receivers that you would have at some other schools. Like the receivers are pretty good for Notre Dame, but they're nothing like at the top end of stuff. He played well. There was points in the game where I wanted them to open it up more for CJ Carr potentially, and it just felt like they didn't really do it. They didn't get the ball enough to Jeremiah Love, yada yada yada. Most of that was caused by Miami's defense, and I think that's why I was so impressed. There was one busted coverage all game. Mohamed Tor, the transfer linebacker from Rutgers, who will be very good for them this season, and he was good for every play during that game except for that one play. That was what was so impressive about this game, I think, was that this defense was actually competent. Imagine if this defense was paired with Cam Ward's offense last year. I mean, my goodness, that would have been a playoff team, probably would have won a playoff game. That was really great to see. They stopped Notre Dame from running the ball. They were clearly more effective in the trenches. Ruben Bain, as you mentioned, did show up. He was all that was advertised. Akeem Mesidor was also really good for them. They just felt like they also had a handle on the Notre Dame receivers outside of the screen passes in the opening drive and a couple other good passes throughout the game from CJ Carr, kind of, buying a little bit of time. That secondary won the matchup against the Notre Dame receivers. All levels, I thought it was really impressive. And then, as you mentioned, the only point of concern, which I know a lot of people want to get on Mario Cristobal about clock management, late game play calling, all of this stuff. But it was the play calling, as they kind of felt like they were playing not to lose at a certain point in the game, and they were trying to run out the clock. Now, Notre Dame did kind of run out of time, right? Like, obviously Miami was able to go down, get the field goal, but, and they kind of won the game that way. But Notre Dame did, in a sense, run out of time. I don't think they would have scored on that drive, obviously, because they ended with back-to-back sacks. But in a sense, they did run out the clock on Notre Dame a little bit. So it ended up working out, and it didn't cost them the game. But that was really bad. And that's where we saw some of the flaws from this Miami team. And I think that is something that is easily fixable, especially in a competitive game, right? Like, it was just that they were up 24-14. They were up 21-7, and they took their foot off the gas, and that is where it opened it up. I feel like if that's your issue, I feel like that's a very easily fixable issue for this Miami Hurricanes team. And then, I'll give it back to you in a second, because I know I've been talking for a minute. But Carson Beck was great. Shout out CJ Daniels. Bailed him out of the one pass that looked like last year Carson Beck, and that's what it's all about. You got good receivers. The receivers look great for Miami. I mean, they were replacing their top 6 pass catchers, and it looked like they had very good players on the outside, especially Malachi Tony, who deserves a mention. I can't believe we've talked this much and haven't mentioned him just yet, but there you go.
Yeah, so I will say, like, clock management is definitely an issue with Mario Cristobal, and it was scary towards the end of the second or first half as well, when it looked like they weren't going to be able to get maybe even a field goal going into the end of the first half, just because of the fact that they weren't calling their timeouts. It was so confusing, and like, they let 20 seconds run off the play clock or the game clock before using one of their timeouts going into one of the final plays of that drive. It ended up being bailed out by CJ Daniels and Carson Beck, like you mentioned. But I think Malachi Tony definitely deserves a mention at the start of this, like what we're going to say next, because he was one of, if not the best player on that field, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I think that Carson Beck, it was raining. I want to also say that, like, it wasn't great conditions here. But Malachi Tony, like, in his first game ever in college, was better than advertised. He's like an American Heritage product. I think that we were both high on him coming into this game, and maybe not this high though. Like, I want to say that I thought he was going to have a good season, but 6 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown, like, that was much better than anybody could have anticipated. And I think that much better than Notre Dame would have anticipated, because by the second half, they had their best cover corner on him, and one of the best cover corners in the nation. So I think that, just like looking up and down this roster, it's also like worth a note that if you don't watch Miami football, Josiah Trader is one of the returners who was supposed to have a really good season this year at receiver, and he didn't have a catch in this game. So like, this Miami wide receiving core could even get better than what we saw. Obviously, CJ Daniels, one-handed catch. Keelan Marion is also supposed to be really good this year, and Malachi Tony plus Josiah Trader. That is a very good first 4. And then Elijah Lofton is also in there. And then running backs, Jamar Brown, Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, all 3 of them are supposed to be pretty decent running backs. The offensive line has a top 5 pick on it. In general, it definitely looks good for Miami. I don't want to run away and say that this is like, I just don't want to go too far, because I've seen so much from Miami in recent years. And besides last year, we didn't have a 10-win season in the last decade besides 2017. So I want to pump the brakes on myself a little bit here, because I don't know how the season is necessarily going to go, but it did look really good after week 1, and I'm excited to watch Miami football again.
With all due respect to Florida State, Pitt, Louisville, SMU, I think I'm ready right now to punch in my ticket for Miami Clemson ACC championship game. Winner of that, depending on what their records are, I think is going to go into the, obviously winner of that goes into the playoffs, but I definitely think, maybe both go into the playoffs, but I definitely am ready for that game to really get a gauge on how good these teams are. And we're going to have to wait to the very end. I mean, obviously there's a ton of different games going on, but I'm ready to punch my ticket that will be the ACC championship game. I'm glad that you mentioned the running back room. The running back room for Miami is super underrated. I love Jamar Brown. I think he's a great player. Like, I think he is elite. And Mark Fletcher Jr. is really good too. I think they got two really good running backs. Jordan Lyle obviously deserved to mention. They controlled the trenches against Notre Dame. Like no notes outside, on the offensive and defensive lines. They controlled the will of that game. And that's such a great sign because I feel like if you control the will of the game against a team like, a middling team, like maybe SMU in your conference, that's one thing. But to do it against Notre Dame, huge, huge stuff.